Hello everyone, my name is Curry. I'm a 3D motion designer based in LA right now. I'm freelancing at Logan TV, if you guys have heard of that. Thank you so much for Hazel's recommendations. Thank you so much for Marseille's invitation. It is such an honor to be here to share about my personal experience. Since I just graduated and didn't really have so much experience in the industry, today I'm gonna talk about more like about my personal journey, about my motivation, my passion, and my intuition. Not so much a specific structure. Especially, I would say a lot of designers gonna be super echo with this talk. I just want to be super transparent and straightforward because it's always taken me forever to learn a new computer program. I would say C4D is like super user-friendly program, which give me a lot of creative control to do what I really want. So I'm gonna just walk you guys about what I gonna talk about today. Basically, I'm gonna based on my personal passion project. For example, creating organic mesh with smaller measure, lighting tips, reducing render times with using Shift Proxies, mocap hand rig, etc. Basically, my objective is always like how to make you cheating perfectly without knowing a lot of technical skills. So after that, your friend asked you, what do you mean when you say motion graphic designer generalist? I was like, I basically do everything. Since you guys didn't really know me so far, I would love to play my reel at first. Thank you. You guys might tell I'm a very design-driven person. If you go to my website, the homepage, everything is done by me, and I'm super interested in the interesting texture and using the composition and color and lighting to tell a story. So from my side, media is just a tool. The most important thing is always about convey your story. And as a designer, I think it's very essential for you to convey your story in a very tight deadline. For example, most of the style frames I did in C4D, I can definitely create everything from scratch in one day, a couple of hours. So this is really requesting you to come up with idea and super fast and get a lot of cheating skills to make this image make sense from your camera. And doesn't really need to be 100% good in terms of production level, but you just need to convey your idea and your aesthetic. Also, I just want to be transparent and straight up. I know a little bit things about Houdini. I create some mesh there. I barely using Substance Painter Designer. I didn't use X particles. I used to use Octane, but right now I realize Redshift has way more creative control than Octane, and then I shift to Redshift recently. Basically, I'm just like super stick to C4D program. That's why I really want to show you a couple of tools I really like in C4D. So let's dive into it. The first one, I really want to show you about the volume mesher and volume builder. And these are two style frames I create in 1 hour or so by using Redshift, volume builder and mesher. I can tell like literally a lot of people can create this from scratch in a very short term. This is the thing I created. Let me quickly hit the render one more time. So I don't know if a lot of people can echo that. I know ZBrush a little bit, but I don't want to like taking forever to create like a super delicate model, but I'm still looking for something customized. I just don't want people to realize, oh, you are just downloading a free model online. And also like the model is always super low poly. So how can we create this kind of organic raw mesh? So you can tell my thing is pretty simple. I just download a free avatar from online and apply different textures and just like a simple pose. And let's start something from scratch. So the first step, you just need to find the volume mesher and volume builder and be sure the builder is the child of the mesher. So basically the builder is kind of like transform your mesh into like a volume, and the mesh will transform the volume back to the mesh to bake the Olympic for the next step. Let's just pull up a super simple tube and make it. You can also download whatever you want, maybe a simple human body or whatever. And then we're gonna go to edit, create a field, shader field. So the shader field is more like a noise, like a 2D noise, which will drive your 3D dimension mesh in a bit. So we just click this button and go to noise, and you can tell, boom, there's already something happen. But it didn't cover all the stuff. That's because your box size is not accurate. So in terms of this, you can either increase your box size. Let's go maybe try 1000, and then it's covered the whole tube, or you can also change the created space from box to object. But it still doesn't look as good as this, right? That's because you should change the unit mode from unit mode to subject or intersect. So here we go. So a lot of two things we need to point out is voxel size and surface threshold. So for the voxel size, it's more about how much details you can get. Oh, one more thing, like if you dive into the shader field, like right now you can tell the noise is a little bit even. That's because we need to change the noise to something different. And you should also, and right now you can tell that the noise is a little bit like repeating. That's why you need to change that to the global scale, and boom, you can still get. We jump back to the volume builder. You can still tell like right now it's more about volume, but you can like how can we achieve this kind of delicate details? That's why we need to play with the voxel size. So let's type in changes to 5 or 3, etc. And we can already tell this like something happened here, right? And the surface threshold, from my understanding, it's more about how big is a particle for each thing. And if you change that into 0.8, it's gonna be bigger. And let's change back to another side. Boom. We already got something similar, right? So it's like super easy. But I would say when you are developing the whole structure, you should change the voxel size to something bigger, because you don't really want to spend time on waiting, generating this kind of details. After you are pretty happy with the rough result, you can reduce the voxel size to something like 2. And you might tell from the bottom left, there's like calculating thing, which can really give you like a super detailed result, right? Looks good, huh? So this is like already as close as what our final result should be. And I'm just wanna back to the original thing really quick. So if you play with the noise and the texture, you can literally generate a lot of different results. You can also mimic the watering liquid, or like this rotated mesh, whatever you name it. Just play with the noise, and you will get definitely different results. So right now I'm just stick with this look. And after that, what if I want to create an animation? Super simple. You just need to key the surface field or the volume size. For example, I just key it from the first frame, and then another keyframe at 40 frames, and we ran everything. Here we go. This is the watering like stuff generating happening right now. So what's our next step? I would say it's kind of risky to change the number of the voxel size, because, for example, I don't want to do it right now. What if you just type in 0.2 or something? The whole thing gonna be super heavy and crash a lot. But when you are playing with the lighting, you don't really want to work on the super unstable and heavy thing, right? That's why we need to bake the volume measure. So you just right click and find bake as Olympic. You can also choose bake as Olympic plus delete, but I don't really do that. I will just click bake as Olympic and see what happens. So we are exporting Olympic. Mostly it's gonna take a little bit of time. Here we go. And we got the measure. After we got the measure, we can definitely either delete or hide everything of the system. So that's one is just for archive. So right now you got your animation, liquid animation readout. And I would say this is a good structure that for you to work on. This is basically what I did to create this two body. It just basically take couple of minutes, like super straightforward, and then we back to the main lighting. So right now we can definitely play around with the texturing lighting. I'm gonna show you guys a little bit about what's my shader looks like. I would say the Redshift shader is also very straightforward and also kind of similar with most of the program agent. And I just measure everything by eye. I didn't really have a solid workflow. Just play with different materials, add a material blender, and add a ramp and curvature. Always play with this kind of different sliders. And as long as you are happy with the final results, like you name it. Basically, I don't really have a big nose for that, and I just play everything by vibe, and as soon as I'm happy with the result, that's it. And also for the camera, you can play with a different camera. I would say the most important thing is more about be smart, find the highlight moment of the image, if that makes sense. So if we jump back to the final result, here we are. This is our final result. So since we talked a little bit about lighting and texturing, right now I really want to show you guys a little bit my lighting tips. Because in the very beginning, I was the Octane user. I would say the biggest difference between Octane and Redshift is like they are both very user friendly, but personally I just feel like Redshift has way more creative control than Octane. The most important thing I can imagine is you can light different objects individually, which is you cannot do that in the physical world. That's why I'm kind of transitioning my role from a photographer and a cinematographer from to 3D world, because I definitely feel like there's way more creative control there. I can just fix the lighting. I can set a target to do what I really want. So let's dive into it. So let me show you the final result really quick. I don't know why a lot of people they mention like, Curry, your piece is like super distinguished and super into next level. How did you achieve that? I would say definitely I did a little bit post-production, like Photoshop, to get a little bit this kind of texture, but for this thing, I'm gonna quickly show you how to make your work more like a contemporary art piece. So in terms of lighting, I would say the most important thing conceptually for me is to truly understand how lighting works in the physical world. Why did I say that? You should definitely imagine your 3D thing as a physical studio. Like if you cannot understand the basic skills for lighting in a real studio, I don't think you can the lighting logic in the 3D program. So I think I'm super lucky because my background is photography and cinematography. So I do have a little bit experience about how to light in a studio. Basically, my lighting is super simple as always. I have 3 different setups. So first is a dome lighting. The dome lighting from my point is more like setting up a physical studio, because in the 3D program, there's no real reflection. There's no real 3D environment in your environment. So how can you create this kind of environment? That's why we need the dorm light. And we can play around with the exposure, with the hue, duration, tint. You can add a little bit color on that, change the samples, and if you click the enabled background, you can see the physical studio on the background, and you can click the alpha channel, which is like super useful for you to export multi-layers. And this is a dorm light. From my side, I always have 3 different lighting. One is dorm light, just for creating the whole environment, and then it's the area lighting. The area lighting is more about setting up the whole tone. So in terms of area lighting, I think it's also very important to understand how far away is the lighting and how distance and size could affect the final result. maybe we go back to this example also. So right now we don't really have any lighting, right? Let me just quickly create a floor, and we just create the lighting super quick. Here we go. So right now, this is like a basic lighting setup. From my understanding, you really need to understand the lighting is far away with a larger size and less intensity. It will definitely generate the soft shadow. Like if you are paying attention to the shadow, it's getting softer. If you make the lighting smaller and then you increase the intensity, let's change the intensity multi-layer to something like 1000. It's more like a spotlighting stuff, which makes your shadow more harsh. So I would say this is also the same logic when you light an object in the real studio. So again, as long as you can understand the lighting physically, I would say you can really handle this thing super quick. One more thing I want to point out is the good thing in 3D program, also the thing I really love Redshift is it can light the object individually. Let me show. So what you mean by that, if you go to Redshift lighting object, you can tell there's a include and exclude mode. For the object, include mode means the object you dragged here could be only affected by this lighting. And if you go to exclude, which means this lighting cannot affect all the objects you dragged in. So why this is like super important? I would say if you want to have 100% creative control, if you want to do everything precisely, you can literally change the include mode to all the objects, and you can light all the individual assets individually. For example, I really love this kind of moody, a little bit like painting white style. But if you go to the dom light, you can tell I excluded the deck, which is the water. If I delete the deck, see? So this is the real result for this image. But I mean, I personally don't really like this kind of repeating texture. I think the highlighting, the dom light is like super distorting. That's why I just put the water into that object and it will not affect it. The face is like not that bright, and I can add another spotlight on the face to just highlight the face, and we cannot even tell in the final result, but it will just make your life way more easier. The third thing I want to talk about is about the spotlight. The spotlight is more about adding a texture on the lighting, and also if you want to play around with projection. I don't know if you guys are familiar with photography, like also for cinematography, a lot of artists, they like to project specific texture on a person to make it looks more interesting. And you can also, I also like the target a lot. So the target is you right click and you go to see for detect target. For example, I really want to exaggerate the face area. I just create a node and I drag the node to the face, and I drag the node under the target object. In this way, the lighting center just will be focused on the target, the node. And no matter how we drag it, no matter how we play around with it, the center will always be around that. I would say Spotlight is more about highlighting. Like for example, I really want to add a little bit like lens flare texture on the face. So the most efficient way is just add a texture, just find an image and add a texture on the top. And if you also check tint texture, which means you can add another color on the texture. And if you want something warm, if you want something cold, it will just like completely change your mood. Make your final readout not that CG generating. And then, as I mentioned, one more important thing is play around with the redshift setting. So one more thing I really like is you can save as present. I know most of you guys are pretty much familiar with how to optimize the samples. So one more thing I really like is definitely you can dive into all the textures and change change the samples individually to like 100, 128, something like that. But what if you have a lot of textures? It's always taking you forever to reformat everything, right? So that's why, I mean, I would say everything I talk about is more about being a designer, but not about the real production. Sometimes I just don't really have time to figure out everything, and I will just check everything overwrite, and I will change the sample to, so I basically just overwrite everything. And you even do not need to make this sample super huge. You just need to overwrite everything to 500 or so, and problem solved. And also for the GI thing, make sure you have the primary GI and the secondary GI, which will make your image looks better. And after you're super happy with the whole setup, you can save the present. Let's say Redshift design. And this is your setup. And you click load present, you go to the design and make sure you change the mode to Redshift design. And the next time, you just don't need to redo everything, and problem solved. Again, I would say a lot of my tricks is more about saving time and how can you achieve this kind of photoreal quality in a super short term. That's why I'm also using post effection in Redshift. So for the LUT, it's more like creating a LUT color. It's also kind of similar with the cinematography. It's like in C4D, I love all of these tricks a lot. Like for the color control, you can change your exposure super quick. You can change your contrast. And photography exposure, bloom is like adding a little bit like softness. You can add a lens flare. From my side, you can literally achieve everything in After Effects and the Photoshop. But I would say again, mostly I need to generate like 9 frames per day. I just don't have time to dive into another program and import and export. So I would say this one is definitely super helpful for you to generate a photorealistic thing in a very short term. After you are pretty happy with that, you can click the Booklet Rendering, which means it will gonna give you the final readout. You can also go to this one to have the check window to only focus on like a super tiny part as long as you are happy with one part, and you can kind of imagine the whole image gonna look like. I'm gonna just quickly show you a couple of more frames I did. So I just follow this logic, and these are a lot of things I created by this trick. So the next one, I really want to talk about my thesis. Let me show you a quick trailer right now. Okay, so this is a personal project I recently did. But I'm gonna show you another breakdown very quick.
In my art, I'm always questioning and exploring the various definitions and expressions of the true beauty. I'm always seeking the meaning of the true existence, and in doing so, attempting to convey the concept of duality in my work. And for sure, questioning how my Chinese heritage influenced me in all aspects. SIMULACRA is a multi-immersive experience which integrates live action, motion capture, 3D scan, and 3D motion digital art. My working process takes on many forms. While I work and conceive, I'm truly and fully led by imagination and intuition. Not so much a specific structure. There are always fresh ideas building upon and ever changing, very much a live visual direction. In terms of this film, I have very much been a one-girl team in the animation aspect of the film. I executed almost all the 3D design, texturing, lighting, models, and rendering by myself. However, I was truly fortunate to collaborate with a highly skilled and creative production team from USC, who brought the live-action sequences into life. SIMULACRA is not merely a 6-minute short visual film. It will also expand beyond into experimental theater, immersive performance, 3D motion graphic, installation, and alternative modes of storytelling in the future.
Okay, that's it. I mean, we have been talking about the still frames for a long time, but right now I really want to dive into how can you achieve this kind of, basically SIMULACRA is my first time to do this kind of hybrid of live action and motion graphic, and I would say C4D definitely saved my life in terms of really simplifies my pipeline. I know you guys might notice about the motion tracker in C4D, and also the motion capture thing. And actually, let me talking about the hand rig at first. So for the hand rig thing, let me open a file really quick, because I have I have very limited knowledge about animation by hand. I just don't want to waste my time on the whole animation, so I did the motion capture for my thesis. But the problem for the motion capture is you cannot really animate the hand, so I still need to animate the hands by myself. So that's why I'm using the C4D Presso tag to create like all this kind of simple hand. My friend Eli, he helped me to build up this system, but I would say it's definitely straightforward. Just need to take a little bit time. I'm not planning to share this for now, but you can definitely go to YouTube and find tutorials. The most important thing I want to share right now is about how can you attach an object onto animated character. Why should I say that? Again, I don't really know ZBrush, and I don't really know what is retail poly, what is UV mapping. It's just taking forever for me to create a customized model by myself. But I'm still looking for something different. Like, for example, this is the character showing in my film, trying to figure out a way of how can I create something different with using my animation information, because I create the motion capture data from Motion Builder and mocap, and you can tell like the animation data should be based on a fully rigged simple avatar body, which I export from DAZ Studio. But the problem is like this girl, she's like too normal. But how can I make it not that normal? Just to be straight up, you just add something different on her body, right? And how can you attach something different? Let me walk you through from scratch. For example, I just download a free mask. This is a mask we want to attach on this body. And the first thing, which is very important, is you need to group this object. You just right click and create group. Here it is, mask 1. I'm going to show you why we need to why we need to group that later. And then we just need to find the target point of which thing we're gonna attach to. And first, we really need to hide the mesh, because we need to select the rig, but now the body itself. One more thing you need to be sure is you need to change you just double click, and you need to change the modes from model to object. In this way, you can easily lively select the joint you created by someone. And let's say you just want to attach that mask to this joint. And first, you need to go to tags, C4D tags, character tags, constraint, and you need to change the priorities to generator and change the constraint mode to PSR. And then the target pop out. Right now, you just really need to find where this target is. And there's a lot of things happening here. You can right click, click unfold all, and then it just automatically helps you to unfold everything. And you lively click to this body, and beta is here, and you go back. Oh, sorry, I did something wrong. And then you go back to the tag, constraint, generators, PSR, and you go back to the body you really want to tag to, and just drag the body, the twist to that. Here we go. And then you unhide the whole body, and if you play that, this object, the mask, will attached and on the animated architecture and have that object move is that character with exact movement of the character. And after you repeat this couple of times, and you got the final result of mine. So this is our final result. Super simple, right? And one more thing that we really need to create this group is after you have this tag, you can barely move the joints of this one, but you can still, if you have the group, you can still move the children. What if you want to rotate the mask a little bit to make sure there's no interjection, etc., and you can still have fully control of the mask itself. The next step I really want to show you is how about the Redshift proxy. Let me open my file really quick. In my thesis, there are a lot of super heavy thing. I'm gonna just quickly run you guys through for this thing. For example, I just create like a simple particle system, particle birds, whatever you name it, from Houdini, and export like a super heavy Olympic, which is taking forever for me to import into C4D, and it's like crashing a lot, and my size is like 3 gigabyte or something, which taking me forever to load. So how can I deal with this kind of heavy thing without really import this thing? That's why I really want to mention Redshift proxy, which is a game changer. So basically, you just go to Redshift, Object, Redshift Proxy, which support animated and deforming meshes, hairs, strands, intenses, volume containers, sliders, and lights and materials shaders apply to all these objects, you name it. I would say from my point, especially for my thesis pipeline, it's more like ideally for your master shot, you should not involve any real mesh. Like you can tell for the bird, there's a path and animation. You can also change the animation here to loop. Then the word loop, ping pong was simple, and you change the. You can also play with the timing. So the first step, you really need to export. Like for example, I'm using Houdini to create this kind of bird-like thing, and in the Houdini interface, you can export a Redshift sequence from Houdini super quick. You just need to build up a Redshift node and export it from Houdini. Actually, let me quickly show you how can we create the Redshift file from Houdini at first. This is very sarcastic because I didn't use this for a while, and I don't have my Redshift license for now, but I can still show you how it works. It's like super simple. From my point, you can definitely build this Redshift proxy as an Olympic or like a mesh sequence. Let me open the file at first. Let's say you already have the host system set up. I mean, you don't necessarily need to do that, but I always cache the file at first, which is the BGEO file, which means you already baked everything on the top. So if your Houdini crashed, and if you want to transform this file to anything others, not only for Houdini proxy, you can do whatever you want based on that. And also you need to find the right location and make sure your name is naming correctly, and then you hit save to the desk. After you got the GEO file, let's see, this is the one thing, the flower thing I have done, and see, like, you don't need to wait. You don't need to worry about if your file is too heavy, and you don't need to wait for the rendering time. Just type in material if you need materials, and if you don't need, for myself, I only export mesh. I didn't really do lighting and rendering, but you can still add a material if you want. If you don't, you just skip this point. You just type in RS proxy and it popped up. Just want to make sure you really need to check the export sequence, and you can type in how many sequence you need to export, and then just hit render to deck and find a good location. So This is the thing I already exported, so you can see it's like pretty straight up. It's just like the geo sequence, and it's lining up with the proxy here. And you can also change the modes to loop, simple, ping pong, and change the time range. And you can also choose the material. If the material is from the object, the proxy file, if you have some material in that file, and or if it's from the scene. And after that, I think that's it. So even the birds is like super heavy, but I can still use it like super smoothly. It's not necessarily need to be a RS file. You can also import your C4D scene into your master shot. Like for example, if you are working on a model which is in progress, but you still want to build up the final result in the meantime, I would say you just create a new proxy and you change the mask to the C4D thing, and this path will automatically line up your thing with your master shot. After that, what if you are still building up your model and this model will automatically connect to your new scene, which is like super convenient for you to manage your file. So I would say I'm basically using this technique to manage most of my complicated file. So in my master shot, in my most of the master scene, I didn't really have a mesh itself. It's more like different type of Redshift proxy, and then it will also reduce your file size a lot and also save your rendering time. I also want to quickly walk you guys through the motion tracker, but it's like too user-friendly. Basically, you just need to import the file and you hit bake, and that's it. And it's basically the same thing with After Effects or Nuke 2D 3D tracker, and you can really incorporate with your 3D thing in your C4D. I think it's pretty much it. So again, I would say my today's sharing is more about how can you be a good designer. Is definitely gonna mess up the real production pipeline in a way. So I hope this one gonna be a little bit helpful. And if you guys wanna reach me out and ask me any questions, don't hesitate to Instagram, DM me, email me, whatever you name it. Thank you so much.